Art Against Mental Illness.
Hello again, everybody. So this is an interview that was recorded a couple of months ago and probably needs a little introduction. Loyal listeners will be aware that I live next door to a derelict Art Deco period cinema known as the Auchterarder Picturehouse, which is the focal point of a local arts charity that I'm involved with called the Auchterarder Picturehouse CREW. The charity is run by a Danish guy who lives in Scotland called Peter Laisen, who also owns a picture house and intends to restore it to its former glory in the coming years. At some point a couple of years ago, Peter was on the hunt for people who could help him build this arts charity, and I put my hand up. I've since been on a whirlwind journey that has seen us become collaborators and close friends, and us delivering some stuff that I thought I'd never be able to do. This interview was originally recorded just to get his thoughts down on what the CREW was and what it represented. But listening back to this, I was blown away by the spirit, optimism and ambition here, and I wanted to share it. It's a great interview and not just of local interest. I've been banging on for years now that the antidote to the widespread social divisions that we observe pretty much everywhere at the moment is community and cooperation. By creating bonds on shared issues and activities, we can build bridges between ourselves and those who may have different backgrounds and opinions from us. As a community, we can generate optimism and action and work together to fight the ills of society, while also forging lasting friendships and bringing something positive, inclusive and fresh to the world. It could be via sports, caring the community, gardening, gaming, spirituality, inclusivity, the arts, or all the above. The point is the community, the relationships and the webs we spin that bind us together. So go out there, find an organisation that suits you and your particular proclivity and get involved, be it online or in the real world. This is the story behind the community that I found in the words of its founder. I hope you enjoy it. I intend to do a few more episodes on creativity in the community in the coming months, so watch this space. I'll see you soon. Bye.
I've always driven up and down the high street here and wondered what this building was all about. It was looking a bit different from anything else, and always been curious. And then when the for sale sign came up, that was the first time I kind of realised, all right, okay, this is now changing hands. It's always been boarded up for about 10 years, so it's always wondered what was going to happen. The first time it went up for sale, I wasn't in a position to really do anything about it. But I subsequently learned that when it went up for sale, and it was up for auction sale, on the day of the sale, the building got listed. So a local group of people had canvassed for trying to get the council to list the building, and it was listed on the day of the auction. So the auction sale fell through. And Chris, the previous owner, then wondered what to do. And a year later, so he essentially put it back up for auction as a listed building. And that's really when I saw it again, booked a viewing, and I remember it absolutely vividly, going in and walking up the main staircase, the feature staircase, up into the projection room. And I opened the two doors into the gallery, and I just remember being absolutely blown over with the fact that this amazing 1926 Art Deco cinema was hidden behind this, to most kind of nondescript frontage. But the amazing thing is, it's been in the same family for 60 years. It has started to dilapidate somewhat, but it has been looked after, and there's very little we can't see. The original bones of the building, the original colours, the original carvings, features, light fittings, it's all there. So I just remember, looking and thinking, oh my God, it's like stepping 100 years back in time. And I really got that feeling up my spine. And that's when I realised that I should try to preserve this. I put my bid in for the auction, and I won the auction. So I was the happy owner of a 1926 Art Deco small town cinema in Auchterarder. So that's really where the journey began. So the first thing you do when you suddenly have a building like that, you start to say, what can we do? And you start a feasibility study. And that's really when we realized the history of the building. So if I take you back to 1926 when it was built, so it was cinematic kind of kind of entrepreneurial times, more and more business people realized there was a market for purpose-built picture houses. Before then, there had been cinema and so on in like community halls and scouts halls and churches and so on, but there wasn't really purpose-built. So it was built with a couple of retail units. It had a tea room upstairs, and you'll see in some of the press, that it was like a palace. They described it as a palace. And remember, this was Art Deco. It's like post international exhibition in Paris. So it wasn't actually like a modern cinema, which is essentially a black box. This was a cinema in pastel colors and Art Deco design and a cream curved ceiling in pressed tin, which is like an 1860 American kind of design. It very quickly became the hub of the community. That's where people met. That's where people socialized. They got the news from the cinema, and it was genuinely like an anchor point for the community. So back in 1926, it was silent movies. So the first film that was shown in the Picture House were The Gold Rush with Charlie Chaplin, and there is a musician's pit in the cinema. We don't quite know if there was actually musicians or piano players playing down there. But back in the 1920s, the first period of the cinema's life would have been silent movies with live music. People will come in, they'll get the news, they will sing the national anthem at the end of the shows. People would sneak out quickly to avoid having to sing it. But and then in the early 30s, and if you look in the cinema, you'll see there's a sound chamber behind the original screen. That wasn't there in the beginning, so that was early 1930s where the speakies suddenly became a thing. And obviously colour as well. So colour and sound were introduced over a period of time. And being a new cinema, obviously you had to upgrade. So in early 1930s, the Auchterarder cinema became a speakeasy cinema. And then the following couple of decades were really the prime for cinema ever. It was the boom of Hollywood. It was just incredible, the amount of films that were made. And in 1946, in the UK, 32 million people went to the cinema every single week. So if you take kind of the elderly and the babies and so out of that total population number and see actually almost the full population went to the cinema every single week, which is just incredible.
Well, this was before common ownership of televisions, right? People would be able to sit at home with the wireless, but they couldn't watch things. This was the only place they could go and watch the things that were coming out of Hollywood.
Absolutely. I mean, mainly Hollywood, but obviously we should. I mean, I mentioned Hollywood because it was the heyday of Hollywood, but there was actually like booming cinema and film production everywhere. It was worldwide as such. But you're absolutely right, and to be honest, the TV was what eventually had to kind of affect all the cinemas. So in the Auchterarder Picturehouse, or the Regal as it was called at that point, was sold to the Antiques family in 1962, and that was as a direct result of the TV coming into more and more homes. Numbers of people going to the cinema was reducing, and all cinemas had to kind of figure out what to do next. Some cinema survived and continued as cinemas. Some cinemas were converted to bingo halls. If you look across the country, if you go into a bingo hall, it's very likely there is a false ceiling, and if you pop your head through the false ceiling, above that you'll probably see an old cinema. So that was how most cinemas were converted into bingo halls. For this particular one in Auchterarder, there was a survey of the local population, and the rumour has that actually it was really in favour of keeping the cinema or having a bingo hall. But the Lord Provost were having none of the idea of having a bingo hall in Auchterarder, and so it was kind of shelved. So the thing I haven't really talked about is why build it, because it's lovely to preserve an amazing old 1926 cinema. And to be honest, that is the romance of this project. To be able to restore something back to exactly how it was for the original purpose. And we can do that because we can see everything that was there. So that is amazing. But it's only amazing if it does something for the local community and the people that it touches. So we set up the Auchterarder Picturehouse CREW, which is essentially going to be the charity that's going to run this place. And the idea is that when we get the building refurbished and we run it as a venue, an amazing historic venue with 2 auditoriums, a restaurant, a bar, a cafe, 2 retail units, an art library, and multi-use space towards the back, then all the profits from this place will go into outreach work. And outreach work for what? Well, the Auchterarder Picturehouse CREW is a charity that wants to support anybody who needs or could benefit from a creative journey. And a creative journey can really be anything that supports that person in terms of expressing themselves, finding like-minded people, getting camaraderies or new friends, a sense of belonging, and essentially also an opportunity to showcase what they do. Some people have very hidden talents. Sometimes there's prohibitors to people starting their creative journey in the first place, and actually just beginning to think about it or joining in or so, and suddenly it can go from strength to strength, and they can find tremendous pleasure. Some of it is about the outputs. It's lovely to obviously write a piece of poetry and recite it, in front of other people, or it could be that somebody paints a picture and again is brave enough to put it out there and get critiqued. But quite often it's being part of the process of actually creating the artwork in the first place, creating the piece of poetry, making a short film, an animation film, or maybe carve a piece of wood or anything really. The latest group of creatives we have is a group that do miniature painting of Warhammer and Dungeons and Dragons mini figurines. And again, that's a completely different kind of hobby from some of the other things we did, but it's a lovely addition to what we do.
So you take a very broad view of creativity, and so you're effectively, and we go into what this practically looks like in a little bit, but effectively you're looking for people who just want to do stuff. So it could be ballet, it could be, we've got obviously already got performance, but you've got writers, but pottery, I don't know, you're just chair making. I'm looking at a chair. So the point here is to support anyone who's doing anything creative, regardless of their purpose, and to give them support on a platform to either meet other people, to make their creations, support them to make their creations. I imagine if someone wanted to make a film, right, a short film, say, might not have enough people to help them make it. They might not have the right equipment or access to the right equipment, and so on. And CREW could put its weight behind supporting that person to deliver that, maybe a bit of help with funding, blah, 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 right? And that's sort of the wider thing here. Someone just wants to learn how to do some watercolor to someone who actually wants to make a movie, right? And it's sort of anything in between.
That's exactly it, because we have to realize that we're all completely different people, yeah? And a creative journey for one person can be completely different from a creative journey for another. So we're not really trying to dictate what the creative journey is. We're not really trying to dictate how it starts, how it's developing, and how it's evolving into maybe multiple creative journeys or multidisciplined creative journeys. What we really want to do is encourage people who might have an urge to do something, but don't do it. So why wouldn't they do something that they've got on ours? It could be a confidence issue. It could, as you say, it could be a resource issue. It could be a knowledge issue. It could be just an absolute kind of an anxiety issue of, if I actually start to do that, what will happen? You know, will I not be able to pay my bills? Will I find a dead end and actually get depressed about it? You know,
will I be ridiculed? Is a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of kind of unknowns when you try to do something. So our point is like trying to support, facilitate, enable. You know, remove prohibitors, remove barriers, and that can be simple things. That can be just creating an environment that's actually welcoming and that doesn't have prejudice or judge you or dictate to you anything. That you can actually just come and participate on your own agenda or your own kind of readiness. But then, of course, if you then opt in and participate in whatever capacity, then we want to make sure that you can then expand on that initial engagement. And that can be that you either want to participate in more. It could be that you have an idea you want to do, so it requires materials, space, teaching, coaching, mentoring, and then there's all the boring things that go with some of this stuff. If you do something and you want to show it to something, you might need something like marketing. If you organize an event, you need things like licenses, you need insurance, all these kind of things that for most people are not their strong point. It's not really core to what they're trying to do, and they are real prohibitors to actually just going on that creative journey that you want. So the CREW is all about removing barriers, support and facilitate and showcase.
But what is the CREW and what is its relationship with the building of the cinema, the picture house? So the CREW is a group of people. How do you think about it as an entity? I mean, it's also a charity, right? So it's a registered charity.
That's right. It's a registered charity. It's got 4 trustees who have got different skills. A lot of effort is clearly going into the kind of the project of creating the picture house. But this is back to why do you create a cultural hub, a cultural kind of, or a heritage centre, an art centre? That is clearly because you want to fill it with people that enjoy spending time there. So the CREW is although it's a charity that wants to create a heritage centre, an art centre, a culture centre for Auchterarder and the community beyond. It is essentially about impacting people's lives, making it a nice environment, and we're not ashamed of saying that we are going to treat the actual venue as a business and try to run it as a profitable business, and then all the profits from the business will go into the charitable outcomes or purposes, which is, supporting people's creative journey. That is not necessarily happening on the premises in the picture house. Okay, so the picture house is a vehicle, an income generating venture project that will enable all these creative journeys, either in the picture house, because we're already hoping that a lot of things will be showcased in the picture house, but actually it's grassroots kind of activities, workshops that can happen anywhere. At the moment, we do lots of events in the Aiton Hall in Auchterarder. We've done events in the churches in collaboration with the Scouts. And as it is right now, we are organising events and activities in the picture house. But obviously, if that has to close because we want to regenerate it and renovate it, then we will use all sorts of venues across the community area to do all these activities.
And so there's a group of volunteers already. Yep. There's quite a few.
Yeah.
For Central Core, you've obviously got the charity and the trustees, but On the ground, we'll go into the individual groups in a bit, but there is ultimately, there's a sort of a strata of leadership, and then a big pool of just people who volunteer their time. And so that could be manning the door to an exhibition. It could be putting up display boards for an art exhibition. It could be doing the makeup for a theatre production. It could be doing the electrics or something for a theatre production, right? So there's a group of people with a diverse set of skills who have either regularly or one point or another given their time freely to support something the CREW is doing.
Absolutely. The CREW is only the CREW through all the wonderful people that give up their time to support the activities. And naturally, as we talked about earlier, we're not prescribing anything. We're not dictating how things are run. So anybody can come along and kind of come up with a good idea, come up with a discipline that they would like to do. So some people will have leadership skills. They are driven. They might have a real desire to help others and shape a program. So we have been really fortunate over the last 2-3 years that we have been able to launch like dedicated programs for certain disciplines. And you're absolutely right. There's leaders within those disciplines. They have kind of taken charge, and they are making things happen. Within that discipline, whatever it is, there are activities, events, and they quite often they're either led by the leaders or maybe somebody who is like what we call an events leader or an activity leader. So to give you an example, within the arts community, the CREW Art, we have a leadership team, and they kind of look at the capabilities, the strategic kind of approach to everything. I guess they kind of verify that everything is sensible and achievable and so on. But in terms of actually carrying out lots of the activities, that can be any number of people stepping up and saying, I'll take charge of this, I will lead this group, I will teach this group, or I will organize this and then get other people to come and help. Underneath the leaders, there is a large group of volunteers who simply just want to be part of something that is clearly good for people. They enjoy other people's company. There's a real camaraderie. We know we're doing something really good for a lot of people. We can see that the overall scope of the program is expanding. We can see more and more people participating. And that's just so joyful for so many people. And there is such a variety because obviously some people, they would like to be really practical. As they might be, we talked about the drama group. There's so many different things. There's makeup, there's costumes, there's props, there's all the technology, lighting, video, audio. So there's lots of different things. But if you actually want to become an actor or maybe write a piece, then that's more creative. But actually, you can be part of a creative team with being practical with your hands and maybe be behind the scenes, but actually making it happen. So there's a role for so many different kind of people. And again, we have volunteers, youngsters, kids that are volunteering, and we have lots of people right into their late retirement.
And as you suggested there, there's no restriction here in that a lot of the people who join up to do some level of volunteering have no prior experience in any of the arts, that they're helping with. And it's not in the least bit an entry criteria. It happens to be an arts-based program, but it's to bring anyone in, right? Whether they've got any experience or any interest in experience, because we put on the art exhibitions, and we said there's going to be refreshments. So we had volunteers manning the refreshments, right? And so anyone can come along, right?
Yeah, and some people have a prior career, a prior speciality, and obviously if they can offer that to the charity as a volunteer or as a program leader or as an events leader, I mean, that is magical, because clearly if you get some very competent people, they are able to pass on their competencies to others, and that can only be a good thing. But equally, a lot of people can come along and do something for the first time. And that's the beginning of them learning about that and growing in confidence and so on. And the other thing is the kind of idea that you come along, you grow in confidence, you grow in skills, and then suddenly you become the one that is passing on to others, or maybe take charge of a certain thing because you're now under the skin of whatever you're doing, and now you can actually lead others. But there's really no specific way of getting involved, and that's the whole point. We want to try to be as inclusive and open and accessible. Most of what we do is completely free as well. We want to make sure that it's not the financial situation of anybody's private kind of economy that's just stopped them participating. A good example was back to our miniature painting class. That requires some equipment, it requires some materials and so on, and we provided that so anybody who comes along, haven't tried it before, they can come and they don't have to do anything, don't have to buy anything, they don't have to bring anything, they can literally come and try it out.
Yeah, and Warhammer is expensive.
I can imagine it sounds like a brand. But my point is, they all sit maybe next to somebody who's been in that hobby for 5 years and has spent a lot of money on it and can spend a lot of money on it, and they might be very ambitious, they might go to exhibitions with it, they might go to competitions with it. So, but again, mixing that up and having an environment where people at different levels can sit side by side and enjoy the hobby together and draw inspiration. That's what it's really about.
I mean, we've had people in obviously my side's on the art exhibition side, but people who have come along and they're just turning up to man the doors or something. And no, I'm not an artist. I've got no previous. I just want to help out. And then they do that a couple of times. You end up chatting to them, and they go, "Yeah, well, I've been drawing for years, or I've been painting for years." And it's like, okay, so you are an artist? And no, I'm not an artist. And it's people don't think of it like that way. Like, I do this as my hobby, you do that, you must be like professional. And it's not really like that at all. And I think that even being involved in that experience, people see that actually, oh no, that they're the same as me. I could be doing this too. And I think there's a lot of people out there, and I can use my area, but I guarantee the people involved in the theatre and all of these things, people will turn up and don't really see themselves as part of that, suddenly become part of it, and they already had the skills. And some of the things these people turn up with, blows my mind. I mean, how could you say you're not an artist? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's people sometimes just need to permission. They need to be in an environment whereby they can just pipe up and say, well, actually, I do a bit of this. Can I show you something? And it's safe, and it's open, and sometimes they'll turn up with something that's okay. You're quite a beginner at this, but that's an opportunity. Let's grow you. Or sometimes someone turns up with something amazing, and you're just like, wow, how can we get this out in front of the public? And I think, it's that. We almost think about it like a pipeline, but I think, taking the more holistic view, as you're saying, if we can get someone in to come and just help out a bit with some carpentry on the theatre, they may be young and end up doing that as a career. That's what it's for, right?
No, absolutely, and don't get me wrong, the crew is very ambitious, so we like to do things well, and I mean, you mentioned the theatre element of the crew, so crew drama, and we've invested a lot of money in making it really, really good, and that includes a lot of technology, and technology is obviously very exciting. There's so much to do: video, audio, lighting, control, and absolutely there are future careers to be discovered by getting involved and being supported, and that is very important. And when I say future careers, it's not just for kids or youngsters. I mean, that could be any time in your life where suddenly you get exposed to something and you think, this is great, this is something I really enjoy, this is actually making me smile when I get out of bed because I need to go and do this, and I really enjoy it. And I mean, I don't know, me personally, I've never been to like a stand-up as such, But obviously, we now, through CREW Words, launched Stands Alone, which is like an open mic night every last Wednesday of the month. And I remember sitting in on the first one. So people go up, they get 5 minutes of fame, so you book a slot, and you can recite poetry, you can recite a story, you can tell jokes, you can sing a song. It doesn't really matter.
Some people do all of that.
yeah. And I was totally blown away because I'd never been in that environment, and the variety was just insane. It was like, it just, some people was how they felt that day. Other people had like an angle on something from their work or their family or a holiday, and they were reflecting on these things. And I was absolutely blown away. And I haven't been brave enough myself to go up in front of the mic for 5 minutes yet. But I'm actually considering, like, what should I do? Because I want to go up there and say my thing, you know. And I remember people sitting in the audience who were not on the list. So they had come to the event, they were not on the list to do something, but they got so inspired that they went up in the break and said, do you know what, I've got something on my phone that I've written, can I go and perform it as well? So it has this real kind of energy and synergy about it. And I bet you, when people walk back from events like this, you are creatively stimulated. You can't wait to do something, do you?
Well, and it raises an interesting point that we haven't really covered yet, which is, for want of a better term, the audience. And so obviously you're putting on arts-based stuff, but it wouldn't be much of a theatre show if no one turned up to see it. If it wouldn't be much of an art exhibition if no one came in. And so obviously the art exhibition's been going on for quite a longer. We've had many hundreds of people through the door throughout over 10 local art exhibitions with local artists. And obviously the people who turn up for your cinema nights, the people who came to the theatre, people who turned up for Stands Alone. And as you say, that some of them turn up for entertainment, right? And that's all they want. But others, the Spectres of Cinema was such an incredible, ambitious production. And so many people saw it from the local community. And this is, what's good advertising, right?
Well, I mean, Spectres is Spectres of the Cinema. So it's really apt because it actually told the story of the cinema. So it was the story of the manager, it was the story of the pianist, it was the story of the usherettes, it was the story of the people that actually went to the cinema. We had the architect there, we had the entrepreneur, Peter Laisen, we had the doorman, we had the ticketing office. You know, we had all the people that had been in the cinema back in the day, and we told their story. And yeah, it was very ambitious. We had a lot of people coming through. It was a production in a dilapidated building, you know, so everything that we put in for the production was essentially a pop-up, but incredible quality. I'm sure everybody will agree. And the fact that we had to put more tickets on after the first, we realised we could fit a wee bit few or more people in. And so we, after the first night, it was 6 shows over 3 nights, so two shows a night. So we had the first 2 shows, realised we could put a few more in, and they just sold out straight away, which is again the word of mouth and the fact that, oh, actually there's something good, you know. And this is the other thing, when people invest time, it can be to go along and nip in for 15 minutes to watch some pictures in an art exhibition, or to say I'll go along and watch a drama production for an hour and a half, or come in and watch a film at our cinema at weekends. It's all about making sure when people leave that they think, that was really worth it. I'm really glad that I spent that amount of time on this. That was spent better this way than most other things I could have done with my time. And that's what it's really about. It's about making sure that people have really good experiences and that we exceed expectations. And I think what we have seen so far is we do exceed expectations because actually there is an incredible amount of talent. And if you make an effort to showcase it, to facilitate it, to house it, then honestly, it is a real treat. So
several of the actors in the Spectres of Cinema are members of the drama group. These guys are like retirees who never acted before and never considered being part of a drama. They're not old thespians, as it were. And so that for me is the concept in motion, in that, hundreds of people came to see a show, and some of those people were only acting in that show because of the existence of CREW.
Yeah.
And some of the young ones as well, right?
Absolutely. But what's really amazing is there's a real momentum now, a real excitement. I mean, the drama group is now looking at a 2-year plan, trying to see how much they can fit in without overdoing it, And I know, for instance, one of the young actors is now writing a play. So that's another thing. Is an amateur actor, but he's so inspired about what is possible when you actually get the support to put on a real production, that he's said, well, I actually want to go and write my own play now. It was a new discipline for him, but he's got the right people around him. They'll support him. And I've heard some feedback, and it's coming along fantastic. So there we go. Somebody who has never thought of writing themselves suddenly finds the confidence to do it.
When we first met, when you were looking for people to do anything really under the CREW banner, and I said, well, I've done some art exhibitions when I lived down south in Windsor, so maybe we could try doing that. And I've got some artwork. So I didn't know any artists locally. I'd only lived here for a couple of years, and I didn't really know how I was going to do it. I just was part of a group down south. And so I had very low expectations of what we were going to do. But I was like, well, I've got to do something, right? I've got all these artworks. I want to show them. There must be other artists around here, but I didn't know anything. And so we started talking about this. And in my mind, we were going to have 2 or 3 artists and hope that some people would turn up. And the art group down south, sometimes we'd do art exhibitions and 3 people would come in. And so there were more artists than there were punters. But that was in February that year. By May that year, we put on the first exhibition. We had 10 artists, these gargantuan display boards with their own lighting, and we got 500 or 600 people in. And I was just stood there in the corner of this place with my artworks up on my panels going, what the hell just happened? Because if it had just been what I said, that would have been cool. I would have been happy with that. That's what I had in mind. What we delivered, and then we delivered another 3-4 times, was a professional exhibition. And I never dreamed I would be doing that. I just didn't dream I'd be doing that. I've got a lot of confidence in my ability as an artist, but not in my ability to deliver art exhibitions. Hell no, I'm like practically phobic of organisation. So that was the first sort of big project that we did, that you put on, and I think it really goes to show, it's like, don't do things by half, make it high quality, do it properly, and everyone is elevated. And now there's a big community of artists, 25 plus artists have all contributed, right, and displayed. Many thousands of pounds have been made by art being displayed. Some of that money's gone back into the CREW, and it's a sort of virtuous cycle. And then obviously we put on the open studios, where we opened the whole of the cinema with 30 artists last autumn, with many hundred people through the door, with our artworks all in the auditorium, and having our artworks shown in that space was absolutely incredible. And then about a month later, you transformed the place for Spectres of Cinema. So if anyone listening to this is under any illusions that there's no ambition, I think you should think again.
Yeah, there is a lot of ambition. It's funny how words have got certain connotations, and ambition could be a frightening word for some. And that's the thing that the CREW is all about, is trying to have ambition at the same time as, being absolutely down to earth, open-minded, accessible and inclusive, because this is not about showing off. This is about putting the best foot forward. It's about making an impression. It's about when you ask people to spend time, whatever it is, volunteering, coming along as a punter, if people invest time, you almost have a duty to try your best. Yeah. And that's what this is about. And that's a good lesson in life as well, to actually put your best foot forward, make it the best it can be. You don't need to measure against others. And this is the thing, actually be happy in your own skin, have small goals, be pleased with what you achieve. There's another story, because we've also hosted 2 book festivals. One in 2023, and then again in November 2024. And again, the story is a wee bit the same as you described, Alex. I remember speaking to Kathleen and Kirsty, who leads the kind of CREW Books group, and they were talking about doing this book festival in conjunction with a coffee morning and so on. It just grew and grew and grew, and the confidence about the project and so on grew. And we ended up having an amazing event with, again, more than 20 authors were there. We had 12 different workshops. We had storytelling, creative writing, crime writing, poetry writing. It was just like there's such a variety again. There's so many things for so many different people. And we had the kids in doing arts and crafts, and there was a real buzz about it. And you'll remember that we did our art exhibition, and I remember maybe a few kids wanted their parents to get through all the paintings and get out of the building as soon as, because they were a bit bored. And then we learned how to motivate the kids and get the kids involved. And actually, 2 or 3 art exhibitions later, it was the parents that were trying to drag the kids back out there after an hour, because the kids were still in the zone, doing their art, enjoying being there. So, it's just fantastic. And on the book side and the author side and so on, we also really come a long way. Because last year in March, in 2024 March, we opened the Creative Hub in the actual cinema, which is a more permanent kind of space and environment where CREW Books have created like a second-hand bookshop, which is really, really nice. It's just so cozy now, open 2 days a week. And we obviously sell books, we take donations of books and so on, but the amount of activities that are here, surprises, and a lot of people come in and just reflect on life, have a cuppa, talk about literature. Clearly, the CREW Books is very closely linked to CREW words, so poetry, literature, storytelling, it's all interlinked, so we've got this really nice space, which is also used for lots of workshops, either by the artist or for the creative writing class, which is taking place here, so that's again a great place. And yeah, it's all going from strength to strength.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when when you started talking about the Picturehouse back in its heyday was a community hub as much as it was a place to come and see movies, and almost we've come back full circle now. And if only it's a little bit more modest at the moment until the development's done, but there is this hub where people can come, and it doesn't have to be about the books. You can just come and hang out and chat and exchange ideas and stuff. We've talked about CREW Arts quite a lot. You've got anything to add to that?
Well, CREW Art was the first group that formed under by through yourself, Alex. And it kind of, I guess, we learned a lot from that. How to go on this journey together. And I know you, and thanks for saying, you were overwhelmed with the first exhibition. But we made it better and along, and we realised there's different ways to do things and different audiences and so on. So that's gone from strength to strength.
I mean, interestingly, one of my learnings about that, because I've had a bit of a choppy couple of years, and my mental health has been extremely variable. And I think one of my learnings about it all was yes, I can do it almost regardless of what state I'm in, and B, my ambition is only really limited by me, right? And so I've had to dial it back a bit to catch my breath, because we did so much up to autumn last year, and I just needed to stop and just mend myself. But it's that sense that, well, when I can come back to this, when I can really get my head back into it, I'm only limited by my ambition, right? That if we can do anything like we did at the end of last year, then I don't even know. I don't know how you top that, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's really, really exciting.
The art group has also done some amazing other things. So we collaborate with other groups within the community. And to mention a few, we've collaborated with the Rotary young competition. So young artist, young photographer, young writer, and they run also young musician and young sports person of the year. And you'll remember when we did the exhibition last year, we took all the entries from the young artist and young photographer competitions, and we framed all their work, and we actually put it on display. So that was a really nice way of giving a bit to that competition, and seeing the youngsters coming in with their parents to see their art on the wall. And we're also collaborating with the local community school, and we've actually helped them do art classes within the school and within the curriculum. I think expressive arts is not funded particularly well nowadays, and actually it's quite sad to hear how the schools are struggling with resources, struggling with teachers and classrooms and so on. So the fact that we can assist them in making the whole faculty better and give kids a chance to actually get inspiration from creative arts and expressive arts is really important. So we're doing great there.
Yeah, and also to exhibit with or meet, professional, semi-professional artists and see that, this is a viable path for them. So we're bringing this to a close. Outside of the redevelopment of the cinema, what's the ambitions for the CREW specifically over the next 12 months or so?
So we are a very young charity. We've only been a registered charity for the last year. We're building our foundation for everything we do. We do have a vision, and it's a difficult vision, okay? But the vision is that we would want to spend as little money as possible ever on administration. Okay, so when we look at charities across the country, some are amazing and they spend 100% of their income fundraising on the charitable purpose. Others are spending half of what they make on making more administration, red tape. And we really want to become a charity that spends 100% of our profits, 100% of our fundraising on our charitable outcomes. Why is that hard? It's hard because obviously if you don't have employees, if you don't have like a back office that is like professional and paid for doing what they do, it is a wee bit harder to drive things, keep to deadlines and so on. And that's the kind of challenge that we are working through. But our vision is that 100% of our money should go to the charitable purposes, and our volunteers are helping us do that. That's why our volunteering is so amazing. But clearly there are some administrative things in the background and so on, and we're working through that and trying to make sure that we can actually deliver these ambitious plans without suddenly getting bogged down in paying for too much administration. But the vision is to keep going, keep collaborating across our groups, keep getting more and more people involved, making sure people are supported, excited, inspired, and then God knows where it will take us. I think we have a really good thing going here, and we will obviously push that as far as we can in our local community. But it's like anything. If you do something well, if something works, other people can copy it and then potentially do it. So if we find that something has worked really well, then we want to share our knowledge with others. We want to even share some of our infrastructure with others to make sure that this charitable purpose is as far-reaching as we can make it. But obviously right now it's all about just getting our group together, getting our leaders supported, getting our events and activities leaders supported in what they do, and making sure our volunteers enjoy being part of this. And we're always welcoming more volunteers if people want to come along. It's a great group to be part of, and we'll just go from strength to strength.
I mean, in terms of plans, I probably was only really asking ironically, since we started 2024 with some pretty well-defined plans and didn't do any of them. Well, we did some of them, but what we delivered was arguably bigger, more ambitious. And some of the stuff that was delivered at the end of the year simply didn't exist in our brains at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And so there's not just ambition, there's speed, and it's dynamic, and it's ever-changing, and new stuff's being brought in all the time. I'm sure it's going to be another exciting year. If people want to get involved, what should they do?
So anybody can get involved. As I say, we have 4 categories of ways to get involved. One is if you know about a discipline, know about an activity, you think that would be a great thing to do, you have some know-how, you can maybe take the lead on it, then we would love you to get in touch and say, I would like to do X, Y, and Z. This is what I think is involved. Will you support us? And I can't obviously say the answer will always be yes, but if it is about supporting people's creative journeys, removing barriers and be completely inclusive, the answer is probably yes. So if you have a dream of bringing something to others, then we will support you. If you are interested in any of the groups we already have, but don't quite want to be the leader but actually can, participate as an events leader, activities leader, then come along, step forward, help us deliver our programs. Make sure you showcase your talent, pass it on to others. That would be amazing. So we've got our program leaders and then our events and activities leaders within each group. But then we have this massive group of volunteers who makes everything happen. It's a great group to be part of. You can choose to be involved as much as you want. Some people are just occasionally part of the team. Others are there all the time. It's entirely up to you. There's such a variety of things to do. It can be anything from opening the door, welcoming people, sorting out building exhibition walls. It can be catering teas and coffees. It can be clearing up. It can be anything really that we need to do. So volunteering, and then you can participate. Yeah, you don't actually need to be a volunteer or a leader or something. You can just participate. Keep in touch. Look what we're doing. Make sure you support the activities. So if we do an art exhibition, come speak to the artist, encourage the youngsters. That's part of the well-being of everybody as well. That actually the audiences come and they're excited and they participate and they engage.
And so, brilliant. Thank you for that. There's currently a holding page for a website, but it has contact details on it. So if you go to aphcrew.co.uk, you'll find various email addresses. Some of the groups have direct email addresses. There's a central mailbox, info@auchterarderpicturehouse.co.uk. So you can contact us if you've got any questions or you want to get involved or anything like that. You just want to put your hand up for potential future volunteering. There will be a proper website at some point soon when I finish building it. But I think that's about it for the moment, isn't it? Any other things you need to mention before we clock off?
We do have a website for the Picture House, which is auchterarderpicturehouse.co.uk. So if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, you'll get a newsletter from time to time. We try not to spam people with too much, but it allows you to keep in touch and just see what's going on. The other thing is you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok. So if you search for Auchterarder Picturehouse CREW or just Auchterarder Picturehouse, I'm sure you'll find us and you'll see there's lots of posts on there as and when we do stuff. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Right, well, thanks for your time. It's been very entertaining and informative, and hopefully more people will come and join the fun.
Thanks, Alex.
No worries, thank you.
Art Against Mental Illness.